And joining us on the Newsmaker line at 6:13, it's Arizona Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema. Thanks a lot for being with us. It's a big week concerning the VA. Not all good news. The VA Mission Act being passed, being signed by the president yesterday, which reforms the VA community care programs. Then you got the funding bill for the VA that's likely to pass the House today. And I want to talk about something that you have inserted in that bill, as a matter of fact, Congresswoman. But also the Phoenix VA not doing so good on a surprise inspection. There's still a lot more to be done for vets, isn't there?
Well, Jim, there is so much more to be done for our veterans, and unfortunately the VA has continued to struggle in providing appropriate care for veterans. So this recent IG report, that's basically an internal investigation, they travel around the country and they do kind of pop-in reviews of different VA hospitals. Mm-hmm. And when they did this recent pop-in review at the Phoenix VA, Jim, they gave Arizona a grade of 1 out of 5. That is unacceptable because it highlighted that there were 13 areas where the Phoenix VA wasn't meeting basic standards. And this is really unfortunate because, as you know, veterans in the Phoenix area have been struggling to get appropriate care from the VA for years. And the Phoenix VA has got to become more transparent and accountable, and we've got to be able to trust that they're providing veterans with the high-quality care they deserve. They're not doing it right now. So you know me. I'm going to continue to hold them accountable and just make sure that they are executing a fix to every single one of the 13 problems that are outlined in this report.
I know this is something you're passionate about. In fact, you are a co-sponsor of the VA Mission Act, which is expected to be signed into law today. How is it different from the Veterans Law that was signed yesterday?
So the VA Mission Act just helps make the VA health system work better for Arizona veterans, because the reality is sometimes the VA hospitals can't provide the necessary care to our veterans at either a local hospital or a clinic. And so what we've done is reform the system so veterans can use the community care system to get the care when they need it. It works better. It's more efficient. It's more effective for veterans. So this bill, the VA Mission Act, which I helped write and which is supported by the President, basically streamlines our community care programs all into one program, and it implements important reforms to get veterans access to the care when they need it, instead of having to wait 30, 40, or even longer days to get the care that they need.
We're talking with Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema. Some other things we would like to talk to you about, but real quickly, this VA funding bill, it looks like it's going to pass today. What the provision in here that you've added is actually, well, it concerns the next generation of veterans.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what's happened in past years is every time there's been a drawdown of troops or an end to a war, our service members come home and, of course, separate from service and become veterans. And the VA has really never been prepared to meet the needs of these combat veterans when they come home with the wounds of war. So what our provision does is it requires the VA to thoughtfully and logistically prepare for the next generation of American veterans. Because at some point in the future, our service members are going to come home from our current conflicts. We're going to see a bump in the number of people who need VA healthcare services. And in particular, we're going to see veterans who have specific wounds of war, like PTSD or traumatic brain injuries or missing limbs. And the VA has got to be prepared. So our provision forces them for the first time in history to prepare to serve the next generation of American veterans.
Let's shift topics if we can. Are we going to get anywhere on immigration legislation this year? Or, you know, is midterm elections in the way of all this? I mean, it's all we heard about for months. The president even backed the idea of doing something for so-called dreamers and expanding the number of people who would be covered by a DREAM Act. Is it just dead?
You know, Jim, it looks like there's going to be some kind of movement on that issue today. So this afternoon, the Republicans in the U.S. House are having a 2-hour-long meeting to talk about immigration. And they're having an internal disagreement about whether to move forward by supporting Dreamers and matching it with smart border security. That's actually what I support. We've actually introduced a bill called the USA Act. It's a bipartisan bill that basically teams up between two big issues. One, getting Dreamers a long-term path to citizenship, and number two, providing critical funding for smart border security like drones and cameras and boots on the ground. But some Republicans in the House want additional measures to vote on. So they're going to have a big meeting today to decide what they want to vote on. If they don't come up with an agreement today, which is fairly likely, then we have a bipartisan effort we've been working on called a discharge petition. Now that's kind of wonky language, but what it means is that we have the votes to force a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. And Jim, we're only 2 signatures away from accomplishing that discharge petition. I believe we will get those signatures tonight if the Republicans are unable to come up with an agreement in their meeting today. Mm-hmm. So we'll see some news on this tonight or tomorrow, and it's my hope that we can move forward rapidly with a vote to finally settle the status of our Dreamers and, equally importantly, in Arizona, get some realistic, smart funding for border security that makes a difference in Arizona.
Okay. Congresswoman, thanks so much. That's Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema here on Arizona's Morning News.